This video is being sponsored by Circle.
Circle is a live-action football sweepstake game where the winner is decided by what happens on the pitch.
The jackpot for this week's Shifter game is £300 with only £3 to enter, and you can join by using that QR code down below or that link in the description.
Another bonus is bet 5 to get 5, which means when you use our referral code, WeAreTottenhamTV, deposit and stake £5 on your first circle, you will get a free £5.
And please remember, you need to be over 18 and a UK resident to play. And also, please gamble responsibly. What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for another preview stream for you guys, and it's a very tough test this weekend. Brighton come to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, who sit 4 points behind us with 2 games in hand. So what that means is, if we do go on to lose, we are in more danger of sliding even further down the league. Not only can Brighton go within 1 point of us with 2 games in hand, it's a possibility that Aston Villa could go 3 points behind us as well, which is crazy to think about. Aston Villa.
Yeah, crazy. I mean, sorry, I thought you were carrying on there. No, considering their start to the season and Steven Gerrard was sacked at the beginning of the season and Unai Emery has come in ever since then, they've been unbelievable. Only City and Arsenal have got more points than them. So you got to say he's done a phenomenal job. And obviously they got Forest at home. You know, you expect them to win that game. For sure. So, I mean, it could be very likely that we're only sitting 3 points ahead of Aston Villa at the end of Saturday, depending on how our game goes, obviously. But it's really not beyond the realms of possibility. And to think that they could get Europa League after the start of the season they had is mad.
Yeah, it really is. And you're looking at the form of these two sides, Tottenham and Brighton, going into it. And you're struggling to think how 3 points, how we can get the job done on the weekend. De Zerbi's come in, done such a fantastic job taking over from Graham Potter. You thought it couldn't get better for Brighton after Graham Potter had left, and it has. You know, De Zerbi has done a brilliant job. And what's he brought to Brighton that maybe Potter wasn't bringing to them?
It's a good question because Potter was always a manager to play good football and create chances. But I guess it's the different kind of chances that De Zerbi's creating than Graham Potter. Graham Potter was more kind of slow build-up possession, wasn't quite the quick transitional player that De Zerbi has brought to Brighton. They've kind of they played the wingers. Solly March is more inverted. Obviously, Matoma didn't really get a look in under Potter, and he's obviously become a mainstay under De Zerbi. They've got McAllister in a lot of more offensive positions. They've kind of changed, flirted between a back 4 and a back 3, but at the moment they're playing with a back 4, and it means that with Caicedo also they're getting a lot of turnovers, a lot of transitions, and it's putting them in positions where when they do get the chances, they're a lot more clear-cut chances than they were maybe under Graham Potter. Under Graham Potter, they would get good high volume of shots and high volume of opportunities, but a lot of the time it was opportunities where maybe they were under pressure or they snatched opportunities when there were defenders in close proximity. Under De Zerbi, there are a lot more clear-cut opportunities where players can take their time a bit more, can use their composure a bit more. Not maybe there's less defenders around because they're breaking on teams. They kind of draw teams in and then they break them, they hit them very quickly. And Potter was a bit different. Not to say it was worse, but it was just different, and it wasn't as good for a team like Brighton than clearly what De Zerbi's showing. So I just think he's creating better quality chances in areas where there are less defenders, whereas Potter was a bit of a slower build-up.
And if you bring up the form table for the two teams coming into it, obviously Brighton with a really good away record at the moment. In the last 6 games, 3 draws and 3 wins. Their last loss coming at home at the Amex. Spurs, for all our bad form and the bad feeling around us, I mean, we are doing fairly well at home at the moment. So does that give you a little bit more confidence coming into this?
Yeah, I think there's obviously more of an opportunity. There's more of a chance we win this game because we're at home. I think our last few home games have been actually pretty good for us in terms of results. Forest, Chelsea, West Ham, Man City. We've had some good results at home. So and Brighton don't win as many games away than they do at they do at home, although they don't lose many either. So I do think there's more of a chance as well. Brighton, in a weird way, like playing a team like Brighton, I always feel like there's actually more of a chance we beat a team like Brighton than we do a team like Everton, because we know that Brighton are going to come and try and beat us. And as well, as much as they're a solid team and they're not easy to play against, there's going to be more space for us against a team like Brighton than there would be against a team like Everton or a more defensive team. So, especially with us playing at home, there is obviously a chance, and maybe there's going to be more spaces for the likes of Sonny. With them as well now going to a back four, Brighton, there could be very much space for players like Porro and Perisic out wide to try and hurt this Brighton team. But I just think the Brighton team right now, how they're playing with their structure and the way they draw teams out, because we're going to have to try and play our offensive game as well, and we're going to have to try and press them at points. And the way they're playing through teams' presses at the moment and just opening teams up, and the way we're defending, it's going to be really difficult to stop. But I do think the fact that we're at home it leads to a much bigger possibility we'll win. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'm just like sitting here and thinking like the law is saying like Spurs are at home, Brighton are away. Brighton obviously came and beat us, didn't they, in that game at the back end of last season, where Trossard scored in the last minute. I can't remember how the outlay of the game went.
They dominated pretty much,
and that was the last time. That was like the last time we played them in an important game, right? Earlier on this season, we beat them at the Amex.
That was like one of De Zerbi's first games.
Yeah, they're a much different outfit like now as to what they were at the back end of last season, and like what are the avenues? Like coming in, I'm just so lost coming into this game, thinking any sort of way that we're going to be able to hurt them, because they're just so intense. They're going to press us so high up the pitch. They're going to put us under pressure, and we all know what happens when this team comes under pressure, even at home when this team come under pressure. So, like, give me some sort of positivity. Give me a way that we're going to win this game.
It's going to be very difficult. The mode, obviously, the biggest way we can win the game is just to try and get the front three involved as much as possible. Their defence is definitely fallible. Their defence can definitely be got at. They're a very offensive team. They definitely leave a bit of caution to the wind. Kane, Kulusevski, Son definitely have the ability to hurt their backline as much as their backline is decent. We definitely have the capabilities of hurting them. I think Jason's still in goal. He's probably better playing out from the back than Sanchez, which is why he's in the team.
Brilliant assist from Matoma.
Got a brilliant assist, but I don't think he's that great a goalkeeper. I think they can't be got at, this team. Estepinian and whoever they're going to play on the right. It could be who do they play against Bournemouth? Let's see, because sometimes they play even Pascal Gross there, but it was Veltman. So it's a weird one with them. So they play that a back four, but it kind of molds into a back three when they're in possession, and they get Estepinian really high up. And if they do that, maybe we hit them very quickly, you can have Porro, Kulusevski kind of exploiting a lot of the spaces they leave. I think you can try and be very physical with them in the middle, although Moises Caicedo is very, very energetic, covers a lot of ground, and he's been brilliant for them. But he's coming into this with a bit of an injury worry. He did suffer a bit against Bournemouth, but the noise are he's going to be fit, but maybe he won't be at 100%, which maybe mean Højbjerg and Skip can dominate a bit more. But of course, it's going to be extremely difficult to get all 3 points, because they're very well settled side. They know what they're doing under De Zerbi. It's working like clockwork, it seems, at the moment. And even in the games where they don't win, they're unlucky not to win. And like games against Brentford, where they drew 3-3, where they easily should have won that game. Games against Leicester, when they drew 2-2, and Leicester were very lucky to grab a point in that game. So even in games they haven't won, they've been playing really well. But I do think their defence can be got at. I don't think they do concede goals, this team. So if we can kind of stifle them as much as possible, I do believe we could get opportunities to score in this one.
If you're Roberto De Zerbi, thinking about it, obviously he's got those links with Spurs at the moment for the managerial vacancy. But if you're De Zerbi, like, how are you thinking about this proposition of Spurs coming at you as for a manager? Because you've got the league standings at the moment where, it's not beyond all realms of possibility, and it's probably a likelihood at this stage that Brighton are going to finish above Tottenham. He's got a settled side there, and he's got everyone singing at the same hymn sheet. Where if you say he's got to come at Spurs, he's got to do, quite some job to get that kind of mentality and that kind of togetherness potentially inside the Tottenham squad. Do you think he's looking at it like that and thinking, well, I've already done good job settling in here at Brighton. I'm doing a good job. Why would I leave and go to Spurs, who are going completely the opposite direction?
I just think the way Tottenham are at the moment, I don't think there's any chance he looks at Tottenham and thinks like, this is a club which I'm happy to leave this settled project I have at Brighton, where everyone is the strategy from top to bottom is clear for everyone, and everyone is going along the same lines. At Spurs, it's just we've said a million times, we're just a mess. We have no sporting director. We have no director of football. We have no manager. There's a lot of stuff to work out at Tottenham, so the uncertainty more than anything, I think, would lead any manager like Frank, not Frank as well, but like De Zerbi, who's in a settled job. They wouldn't look at Tottenham right now, I don't think, and consider them to be a job worthy of leaving their project for. But I think De Zerbi knows, and that right now Brighton are doing very well, and the project is all linking up. But the potential of Tottenham is very high with the money they bring in, the stadium. There is a very high potential as well, like to be that manager, potentially to break that trophy drought which has been going on for so long. That could be something to tempt him. Like, I don't think it's obviously, like, Brighton are doing very well at the moment. It doesn't mean they're a bigger club than Tottenham, and he could see it as an opportunity. I just think right now if he had been at Brighton for a couple of years, it's a different kettle of fish. But the fact that he's only been there 7 months, I just think he would be stupid right now to jump ship and go to Spurs when there's so much uncertainty.
Fair enough. Yeah, I kind of agree, to be honest. You're looking at the head-to-head between the two clubs. Funnily enough, like, you would associate probably Spurs and Brighton when they go head-to-head, there'll be quite a lot of goals shared between them. But looking at that, I mean, 3 1-0s there in the past 5 games played, 2 1-0 losses. I mean, even a 1-0 win. I mean, can you explain that? Why is there so many like low-scoring games? I would have thought that these two teams would bring high-scoring games.
Well, because Spurs, I would say.
The Spurs are so boring.
Yeah, because Conte's probably under Conte and Mourinho. It's pretty easy to explain that, probably. We've been very organised defence first over all these fixtures. And that probably leads to games where Brighton are trying to play their football and we're trying to stifle them, and it's lead to kind of very tight games where a lot of the time it's won by the odd goal, and a lot of the time, a few times it's been Brighton who've won it as well.
There's a lot of key matchups on the pitch. I mean, you've got to be worried about Matoma coming up against Pedro Porro this weekend.
Worried about that, for sure. Matoma has been in such good form. You have to say that he's a massive threat.
7 goals and 4 assists in his 15 starts this season.
Especially since the World Cup. Since the World Cup, he's been electric. And his dribbling style was so hard to stop.
I tell you what, though, I actually noticed him at the back end of last season, because Brighton were bringing him on in games in the last like 10, 20 minutes of games last season under Potter, and he was making impacts in games, and he is such a tricky customer. I mean, what has he got? He's got like what did he do? He wrote like a thesis on dribbling or something like that.
Yeah, he did. When he was doing his degree, he wrote his dissertation on dribbling and the art of dribbling, and he stuck a GoPro on his head, and he recorded himself taking people on and discussed the different movements and what works better when dribbling. So he really knows his stuff when it comes to taking people on, and it showed in the Premier League. And he's obviously really improving his final product, his decision making. That seems to be something he's really worked on. Some of the finishing he does at the highest level. His decision making and passing ability is really good, and he seems to be quite a two-footed player as well. So Matoma has been so good. I mean, he's become one of the shining lights this season, I think, especially since the World Cup. He's just been non-stop. So he's a fantastic player. And then you saw McAllister there as well. I think McAllister is one of the most underrated players in the Premier League, although not probably since winning the World Cup, people are starting to take notice of him a bit more. I was a big fan of him. Like, I remember before the World Cup, I was saying Spurs should sign him, but then since the World Cup and beyond that, he's really shown himself to be one of the up and coming midfielders in the Premier League, and he's got unbelievable ability, long range shooting, creativity, close control, great, really good balance, finds the pockets of spaces really well, links the play really well, and I still feel like he's got more to show. He's got 7 goals, quite a few of them from penalties, but I really believe he's got even more to show than he's shown at the moment for Brighton. So he's playing really, really well, and I think he's one that is destined for a big move.
Yeah, and another one who we've spoken about quite a bit the last couple of weeks is Evan Ferguson, making a name for himself in the Premier League, making a name for himself for his national team as well. 18 years of age. I mean, this guy's got a big future ahead of him, doesn't he?
Definitely,
massive.
Definitely. The way he's going, the fact that he's starting regularly for Brighton at 18 years of age is really astounding. You've got to say that really, really impressive from him, and the fact that Brighton have given him every opportunity as well to play in the team is really impressive. He seems like a proper old school number 9, someone who's a real big threat in the box and has got really good finishing ability, but the fact that he's physically competing with these top centre backs at 18 years of age is very impressive, and he's definitely something else to think about. He's clearly not easy to stop because he scored goals against Arsenal. He has scored goals in against other good teams. Even it doesn't matter who he scored against, but the fact that he did score against Arsenal just goes to show how impressive he's been. And he's got a massive future ahead of him, Evan Ferguson. He's definitely one as well that, if he's doing this at 18, who knows what he can achieve.
Yeah, and he just seems so far ahead of like maybe the players that we've got at 18 and the ones that we think that have got such a big future ahead of them, which is crazy to think about. Other big players, obviously Caicedo and Gross in the middle of the park. That are massive players. Caicedo nearly getting that big move in the winter to whether it be Chelsea or Arsenal. Didn't quite happen. He signed a new contract. I'm sure he'll go for even more money that was spoken about. Injuries coming into it for Brighton: Lallana, Moda, Sarmiento, Mwepu, Lamptey being a doubt.
I think Mwepu retired.
He did retire, actually. You're right. But even another player that you want to talk about is Levi Colwill, who's not getting enough props. I mean, he's been brilliant at the back for them.
Yeah, he's coming from Chelsea. And he's still quite young, but he's been super impressive. What I really like about him is his ability on the ball to progress the ball forward, and his passing range is really impressive. He's got really good composure. I still think because he's young, he sometimes gets a bit bullied and maybe loses concentration occasionally when it comes to his defensive ability. But his on the ball, he's really, really impressive, and if he carries on in this vein, I think he's going to be a really good centre-back, and I think he's got really high potential. I've been so impressed with Colwill, to be honest. I don't think right now he's like on a level to be like a top 6 centre-back just yet, but he's definitely on that journey to become one for sure, and right now, for his age, he's playing at a really high level. He's super impressive.
Well, how do you think the game's going to go? What's your score prediction going into it?
I do think we're going to struggle, to be honest. I've seen the way Brighton play against how they open up teams like us, especially the fact that we're not so organised right now. Where Stellini is coming in, but it's more of like the same football, which the players are kind of trying to press, but only like kind of half-heartedly, and they're not really pressing with full belief. And with that in mind, that leads me to believe that we're going to be fairly easy to play through for Brighton. We're not so great right now when it comes to winning back possession very quickly or trying to press from the front. So the fact that we're not that great at doing that, they're going to maybe find it difficult to break us down once they get into our half, but they're going to find it quite easy to play through us from their half, in my opinion. So I do see us struggling. I do see us struggling to contain March and Mitoma, because it's what that's going to do is it's going to pen back our wing backs in Perisic and Porro. because I don't think Stellini's going to trust Longley and Romero to deal with them. So they're going to be penned back, which means the space going forward isn't going to be exploited by them, which means I do believe if they condense the pitch and pin our wing backs back, I just see us being penned back for a lot of the game, in all honesty, and I think we're going to find it very, very difficult to kind of sustain attacks, hold possession, and get the supply to the front three. So I do see us occasionally doing it, which might lead us getting a goal. But I think the way we're defending and the fact that I see Brighton pinning us back a lot without counter-attacks, I just see us losing the way we're defending at the moment, to be honest. And I do think as well, if we had any thought of maybe dominating through the centre, I think Caicedo is going to put a stop to that, because he's got so much energy. And I do see him being able to deal with Højbjerg and with Skip, especially in the second half once they tire. So I just think we're going to lose 3-1 in my honest opinion. I can't see us getting the result unless Brighton are wasteful and we can hit them on the counter and make the most of our opportunities when going forward. But I just think the way the game is going to go, I do see Brighton for a lot of the game being able to pen us in, and that's what I'm worried about.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult, and it's also you think that like if Brighton do go up 1-0 early, I mean that stadium is going to turn very toxic. There's already talks about protests and this and that before the game, and even talk about a lot of people not even showing up. So I think if we do go 1-0 down early and they start getting on top of us early, I think it really could come from bad to worse, and we could go and lose the game quite heavily. But I'm going to try and be a bit positive. We are at home. Brighton, look, they are drawing games away quite regularly, 3 in their last 5, against teams as well that aren't in the greatest form. So without too much sense, I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw in this game, and hopefully we can take away a point. And that's the state it's come to, where you got Brighton coming to Tottenham and you're not even confident that you can even like get a point, never mind 3 points. That's the state it's come to. But I want to know your predictions in the comment section below. That is our match preview for the game against Brighton.